Good. Before I get started, can I have the slides? Okay. No, just go. Okay. First of all, it is absolutely cruel that you call someone to Goa and make them wake up on Saturday morning and then show them PowerPoint presentations. It's probably possible only in Toastmasters. So, probably you are shouting ooh because you want to show your gratitude. Because it's funny how in Indian movies when Sanju Baba walks up to God, God actually lowers the standard by saying, hey, at least you have one leg. God never sends a carpenter or a civil engineer to repair the infrastructure so that Sanju Baba's leg becomes better. And why on earth should show gratitude for that? Well, that will be the point of the presentation. So if anyone is offended by anything that I say in the next 20 minutes, remember I am on stage. There will be a day when you are on stage, you can get on. For all the people who are terribly offended and want to express your view, there is Facebook. So with that view, let me get started. My name is Sai, and back in 1984, a couple fell in love and got married in south of India. The hero works for Indian Railways. Indian Railways refuses to pay much back in 1984. Remember that, it will come back to haunt us. Because one of the greatest, let us say, awards of being an Indian, a lower middle class Indian, is that our finances are middle class but our dreams are high class. So, this is where my life starts. And my dad works for Indian Railways. The heroine starts to learn Telugu. Why does she start to learn Telugu? Because we moved to Andhra Pradesh. Why do they move to Andhra Pradesh? Remember, it's 1984. The couple fell in love and they get their first child who suffers from a disability. So this disability has a lot of stigma associated with it. Why is there a stigma? We will talk of that as well. But given the stigma, there is a lot of relative pressure, there is a lot of financial pressure. A new life needs to begin. So my parents decide to move to Andhra Pradesh. So what actually happened? So that is what you all see of me on stage. That is what I actually went through at several phases in my life. So in order to describe what actually happened, in 1984, I was born with an additional growth in my spinal cord. Thanks to the doctors who were well educated then, there was an error in the operation, and because of which some of the nerves in my body got damaged. And I ended up with a severe nervous system damage, which resulted in the fact that there is no sensation in the lower half of my body. So I neither feel heat, nor cold, nor anything in the entire lower half of my body. Apart from that, there are no control over kidney functions. 6 years from there, on an excursion trip in school, a nail pricks my leg, and remember there is no sensation, so I wouldn't feel the pain. So I kept on walking on the nail until I realized in the evening that there was a lot of blood loss and there was an injury that would never heal. This injury would progressively become an ulcer. From there on, it will turn out to be a life-threatening cancer. So that is what actually happened to me. Now, given this condition though, some good people decided, the doctors decided to call it 80% physical disability. What is this 80%? Well, the government requires you to have a certain percentage of disability before they can give you a certificate. Why do you need a certificate? Yeah? Concession. Reservation, fantastic. Now, government's principle of reservation works on this. They give you a certificate and then a reservation. Now, according to the principles of reservation, when a person with disability cannot climb 3 floors in a college to study, the government will tell him, dude, climb the 3 steps, but still get 30% marks only, it's okay. I'll go ahead and give you a seat. So they treated the reservation problem, they treated the disability problem like a reservation problem. Anyways, the government defined disability as a percentage suffering. Some good people decided to call a person with disability as someone who is physically challenged. Now that's like calling a single person romantically challenged. Or Monday as differently Sunday. It just doesn't make any difference to my life. Some better people call me as God's special child. That's even more irritating. There's nothing actually special about being disabled, let me tell you that. Lastly, some Rahul Gandhi say disability is a state of mind. you want to scream, Abki Baar Modi Sarkar. Because it's not a state of mind, it's something that I go through every day. But then you really can't do anything. What happens because of disability as such? Given my disability, the doctor said you cannot walk on your own. The school said that you are a distraction to other students because you will stink, you are unfit, so kindly go to another school. The auntie who stalks me all life, she lives next door to my house, and her only purpose of life is to go ahead and stalk what is happening. She even knows I am in Goa today. So she goes ahead and says, Ayyo Papam. And then there is a priest who says, it's all karma. It's all karma, but God has a plan. Why? Because I am God's special child. My parents though believe that education is the only way out of this whole mess. Why would they believe that? I had no clue. They believed that the entire problem of disability could be solved from an education perspective. So they went ahead and pulled in all their money, took home loans. India is the only country where home loan is cheaper than education loan, which is actually funny because you want to go ahead and have a progressive country. But anyways, they pulled all the money together, bought me a scooty, and thanks to the Indian system where they train you, if you, anyone from Hyderabad here? Yeah, so you all know how we go through our engineering entrance exam. You are beaten the subject into your mind and you are literally, I got a good rank. I scored the 942nd rank out of 200,000 people who took the exam, and don't clap as yet. The greater tamasha is about to begin. So I went ahead and joined my engineering college, which is CBIT. And thanks to the wonderful education system, where whatever question is asked in the question paper, we don't care. We write what we know, and then later he has to figure out whether we are right or not. I ended up as a gold medalist of my college, and then I joined Infosys, the great wonderful company, which was a dream company for many people. Any Infosys Toastmasters here? Thank you. Because what Infosys taught me was this one amazing quality called frustration. And I owe my gratitude for that. Because thanks to that frustration, where I was trained like a donkey for 4 months, and then for 2 months I was on bench, and I showed my arrogance to the HR and I told him, dude, I want to go ahead and do some project. He said, in a 30-year long career, 2 months on bench means nothing. The moment he had planned out my 30-year career, I got shocked. I decided I needed a comic relief in life. So I decided I will go abroad and study, because that's the way life works in India. Because the only other exit options are CAT, GMAT, GRE and GATE. Why? Because you are an engineer. In India, you are first an engineer and then you become something else. So I decided to go to the US and do my master's program. And then when you have done your master's in engineering as well as your engineering itself, at the end of the day you decide you are good for nothing, you become philosopher, and you ask 3 fundamental questions, which is, what is life? Why am I like this? Okay, where am I hanging around and who are these people around me? At which point you think you have to be cool, therefore you go ahead and decide you will do your MBA. So I come back, because MBA is the only exit option from there on. Because when you can't be anything technically special, you can go ahead and manage people who are technically special. So, came back, applied to ISB, I'm still wondering why they gave me an admit. They themselves are wondering why they gave me an admit. But eventually we both agreed to a common understanding that I'll study for 1 year there. And we studied, and I got through with a scholarship. And then when I graduated, that is when I told myself, dude, I spent 25-26 years of my life trying to go ahead and get educated so that I could go ahead and do something. Because at the end of the day, it is not the gratitude of what you have, but it is other people's gratitude that you have been something to them that really matters in life. When generations to come suffer for the same reason that you are suffering today, then it does not matter whether you have lived or not. So I told myself, no person with a disability should actually suffer for the same reason that I did. Yeah, don't laugh at it. So tamasha happened still. Because it's a fantastic fantastic vision statement. But when you go ahead and execute a vision statement in India, what I did was I went to the US, made a fantastic video about how the infrastructure facilities in US for people with disabilities are amazingly awesome, and how using infrastructure they actually nullified disability in their country. I put that video on YouTube, copied it on Facebook, put it on Output, put it everywhere. 2 people watched it. One myself, the other my friend. Nobody really cared a damn for that. Okay, then we went ahead and did a cost-benefit analysis of what happens in order that you put an infrastructure in place. And we submitted that to the HRs of various companies. Any HRs here? So they'll go ahead and say, we will see. And that means they won't do anything. So at the end of the day, I went to the Home Minister and I submitted him a project where we said, dude, these are the jobs for people with disabilities where disability could be a potential advantage. For instance, if it's a traffic police and he's affected by a noise pollution, if the traffic police is deaf, he's never affected by the noise. And he's the perfect man to work as a traffic police because all he needs to do is do sign language. And the Home Minister said, very good, patted on the back and moved on. Now this really frustrated me to the core, and I decided that this is not the way India works. So, and my friend said, dude, the problem is not the problem is the perception about the problem. What is the perception about the problem? Now this great man wrote a wonderful book in which he said that whatever bad things you do, you will definitely suffer. Whatever bad things you do, you will definitely suffer because it is called karma. This great man in the same book also said that whatever good things you do, don't expect results. Okay, now that really blew my mind off because when I go ahead and do something bad, I definitely get results. How about me doing good and not getting results? It didn't make any sense. And then I went ahead and asked my priest what is his view of disability. He said, in the previous life I had actually gone ahead and tortured many people. Therefore I am suffering with disability in order to pay for that. Obviously you want to go ahead and torture that man also in this life. It's just worth it. Okay, so I went and read that book in detail, and then at one point he actually mentioned that life is actually composed of 5 elements, which is sky, earth, water, fire and something else. Okay, there, yeah, good. So when it was told that for a person who is fully abled, he must experience all these 5 elements completely. So I decided, okay, if I am able to explore all these 5 elements completely, maybe I can reposition India's view on disability. So with that thought, I became very emotional, and in that emotion, I paid to do a skydiving. Now I jumped because I paid. Remember, we are lower middle class Indians, and the only thing we do is always save money. And when we let go of money, we will enjoy it thoroughly. Just wait for 17th night cruise for which we have paid 3,000. Okay, so we will enjoy it thoroughly. So the emotion that I paid, and in the fear that I had paid, I actually jumped. Okay, I jumped on my mother's birthday so that it will add that sentimental angle. And I actually forgot to wish her a happy birthday. Because all I cared at that moment was, please get me down. When I got down, my friend had enough sense to put down an Indian flag in my hand. And we both of us screamed saying, this is for the cause of disability in India. End of story. Now when you do such things in India, when we tell them serious, straightforward stuff, nobody listens. But Rakhi Sawant is very famous. Okay, in fact, she's even stood for election in our country. I don't know what happened with the result. Okay, so when we went ahead and did that stuff, media picked up the whole angle. They put ahead in headlines saying that a person with disability in the US could skydive. From there on, Amir Khan picked up the story and invited me to his show called Satyamev Jayate. In Satyamev Jayate, I again spoke of the infrastructure issue. When I spoke of the issue myself, 2 people watched. When Amir Khan spoke of the same issue, people cried. And we had close to 1 million views on YouTube. Well, at the end of the day, as long as the issue works, that's great. So inspired by it, I went into the second element, which was Earth. So I went ahead and took a helicopter and went to the Grand Canyon. We drove through a desert before picking up the helicopter, and we found a nice remote place in Grand Canyon where there was no cell phone signal, no laptop, nothing. It was the oldest sediments on the planet, and we stayed there for 7 days. The result of it was my manager got angry because I was not available for 7 days. And then I realized when you do something for which your manager is angry, that means you are doing the right thing in life. Because the reason he is angry is because he cannot do such things himself, and you being younger are doing that. So I decided I am moving in the right direction. So I went ahead and looked at the third element, which was water. Now this was an interesting angle because for water I could scuba dive or try something else. But everyone was scuba diving these days. So I thought we must try something different, and for that I decided at the intersection of the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean, I will go ahead and jump into the water. Why would I do that? That's what happens. When you are in this country, when you are in a lower middle class family, when you got an education that you really don't believe in, and at the same time when you are working really hard and the change is not happening, all you want to do is chullu bar pani mein doob maro. Okay, so at the intersection of the two oceans, I wanted to take a plunge. Now, how would I go to the intersection of the two oceans? Well, you are an engineer, and when you are an engineer from Andhra Pradesh especially, all you ask is when do you do it, not how do you do it. You give us the deadline, we'll really figure it out. So I wanted to do it at all costs. So I wrote an email to a person called Sir Robert Swan, who was the first person to walk to North Pole and South Pole, and I told him, dude, you should construct a university in Antarctica. He asked why. Well, Antarctica as a continent is failing because of global warming. In order to protect the continent, which nobody cares, because in a country like India, which is a major contributor of pollution, all people care is food, clothing and shelter. But if you come down and say environment, people will slap you. So all you might really want to do is construct a university in Antarctica and then ask people to protect that university. Because in the context of protecting the university, they might actually end up protecting the planet. He liked the idea. But he said, paisa, where will you get the funding for this? So he said, if you can raise close to 15 lakhs for this, then we will go ahead and set sail to Antarctica. Now raising 15 lakhs in India, given ISP network, I thought would be an easy thing to do. So I went to all the corporate companies, gave them a presentation. Everyone said, we will see. And I realized quickly it's not going to work. So I started my own venture, which was to train people for the exam of GMAT. And I trained close to a few people in under 3 months, and I raised close to about 30 lakh rupees and set sail to Antarctica early last year. In this journey, the plan was to go ahead and figure out what could be the potential hazards once I land in Antarctica. So initially we trekked on the Andes mountain ranges to try and figure out how difficult will Antarctica be for me when I go ahead and live there for 15 days. So what we did was we went to the icy slopes of Andes, and there I figured out by walking with crutches what are the rough areas, what are the smooth areas. For the rough areas, how will the bottom of the crutch be? For the smooth areas, how do I fix my ice screws and all that. Everything worked great until I actually landed in Antarctica, and I found out that in order to hold a crutch while I was in the Andes, I wasn't wearing any gloves, whereas in Antarctica I was wearing gloves. So I went ahead into Antarctica, and the moment I had to hold a crutch, I figured out I cannot hold it because the gloves are this thick. That means the entire plan, the entire effort for 4 days are a waste. Small things make a really big difference. So what do we do? Should we cancel the plan? No. Because we decided we will seek revenge on Britishers. We carried these people for 200 years. So I told, these are British guys, let them carry me for about 200 miles in Antarctica. So this guy was a Britisher, carried and paid off the karma effect that he had. Those 4 guys showed gratitude for what Indians contributed, and eventually after a million years of human history, there was one person with a disability who actually landed in South Pole, and that happened to be an Asian. Now what do you do in between? No. There is a religious touch to India, remember. So what you do is at the end, at the intersection of the Pacific and Atlantic, wait for Shivaratri to happen, and on Shivaratri day, jump. Because it was anti-Asian. So went ahead, took the polar plunge on the Shivaratri day, and remember, it was not a good karma that actually enabled me to jump. It was amazing infrastructure, 4 people's planning, and a great support system that we built in over 6 months of effort that actually enabled me to go ahead and go to Antarctica. When I went to my priest and I told him, dude, what do you say now? He said, it was all destiny. You were meant to do this. And I like, you cannot answer the religious philosophy in our country because it's circular logic. My mom tells Bhagavad Gita is true. Why? Because Lord Krishna said it. Why does Lord Krishna, everything that Lord Krishna says is true? Because he is God. Who said it? Bhagavad Gita says it. This kind of a recursive philosophy that we live in is one of the fundamental reasons for which our thought process is never towards a forward thinking. Anyways, so going ahead, when I took the plunge and I went to Antarctica, I was shivering in between for 3 days. Eventually, I reached the continent of Antarctica and there I sat down and had curd rice. Now, if you all think Arvind Kejriwal is the only person who can do drama, you have not seen me yet. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So what happened from there on? So, did it actually change anything in our country? Not really. In terms of infrastructure, only 2 to 4 colleges changed. And out of those 4 colleges, 3 were the colleges that I studied in. So, why does India not change? And is it even worthwhile to fight this? The truth of the matter is, not all fights are fought because you have to win. Most of the fights are fought because you have to keep fighting continuously till one day there will be a person who can take it to the end result. Maybe I won't be able to see the end result in my lifetime, but I'm pretty sure that I will go ahead and keep the fight going on so that hundreds and hundreds of years later there will be one guy or girl who from our country will enable that the entire infrastructure of our country changes in such a way that the person with disability also can go ahead and lead a normal life. So this was just one small attempt at going ahead and keeping that fight going. Harvard University saw this fight and they gave me an admission and I'll be leaving with them to do my further research on disability later next month. Thank you so much for the wonderful opportunity.